Welcome to my Senior to Seniors podcast, where I dive into the stories of seniors, explore their unique experiences, discuss the real issues facing seniors today, and introduce you to those assisting seniors in their journey. I have the privilege to talk with some of the most interesting people in the world impacting the senior community today. My name is Jim Mazziotti. I've been a realtor for 33 years. I'm a national speaker, real estate coach, and an author. And my goal today is to pay it forward to seniors just like me. And today I have a very special guest, Dr. Gerald Robison, who is joining me today. And let me tell you just a little bit about Dr. Gerald. He's a pastor, been a pastor for his entire adult life. Dr. Gerald Robison currently serves as a mobilizer of churches, mentor of pastors, and strategist for missions. He holds 2 master's degrees and a doctorate, has lived on 3 continents, and traveled to 5. He's taught over 300 seminars and classes on missions and the Bible in over 25 countries, as well as at seminaries and colleges. A prolific author, many of his articles have have been published in international Christian papers. His latest book, which we're going to be talking about today, 30 Seconds That Can Change Your Life, is, I think it was written in 2000 or published in 2024. I just completed the book. I love the book and knew that I had to talk to Dr. Gerald, that he would be able to answer some of our questions and bring some of his love of life and some of his findings to us that will help us as we move forward. So, Dr. Gerald, I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to my podcast.
Well, thank you so much, Jim. What a pleasure to be here. I'm honored to be asked, and I'm looking forward to our time together and being able to share that with other seniors. Now, I'm having a senior moment. I'm looking at my computer, and the light is not on. That tells me it's charging. So I'm going to duck under the desk for a minute
Okay. All right.
to
Okay.
make sure that we are charged up.
You go ahead and duck. And while you do that, I'm just going to tell you that Dr. Gerald Robinson is going to share some simple and powerful time management secrets that will help maximize every moment that we have, especially as seniors. His approach isn't about finding more time necessarily, it's about making the most of the time we already have. He'll share his proven tips on turning life's micro moments into big wins. And in his book, which is so interesting, he breaks down a number of ways to maximize the 30-second rule, for instance, the 30 seconds that you might have when you're in an elevator, the 30 seconds you might have when you're sitting and doing nothing, and how you might utilize that 30 seconds to better your life, to make your life more interesting and better for everyone. So, how are we doing with the charger, Doctor?
Not good, but I
No?
can plug it in someplace else.
Okay.
Now, take just a moment. These are the problems you don't expect at the
But
right
they happen. But they happen. When you go live on Zoom, on the internet, it happens all the time. So um, we're just we're just moving forward. It's all
We're
okay.
good. We're good.
We're good.
We're good.
Well, Doctor, did you have anything to open with yourself?
Oh, only this that I have found people everywhere, no matter their age group, but especially seniors, we tend to think, I wish I had more time,
Yeah.
or I need more time. I faced that myself and I had to come to grips with thinking through the whole process of time, what you do with it, what you can do with it, what you can't do with it, and how to manage it better. And so that's what I tried to put in the book, and that's what I hope to be able to share with your audience.
Was there a particular moment, Doctor, that inspired you to focus on the 30 seconds that can change your life? Was there a particular moment where, the light bulb went off and you thought, I can serve people with this message?
hmm there was, uh, when I was 48 years old, um, I realized that there was a part of Christianity I had not been focusing on. And I told God, if you will give me 25 years more, I would like to focus on that.
Yeah,
And as that time drew down, as that 25 years kept getting closer and closer, I was plagued with the idea, how much more time do I have? I've only got so much time. What can I do? What do I need to do? How do I
yeah,
focus it and realize more productivity? And it brought me to a realization that time is incredibly precious and you only get so much of it. Now, nobody has more time or less time than you do every day, but you don't know how many days you have. For
exactly.
me, yeah, for me, I had a date that I was looking at, and I said,
Mhm.
by that date, I want to be so comfortable with God and what I've accomplished that if He decides it's time for me to leave this life and go to the next, I'm okay with that. But I
Mhm.
need to be expedient with the time I have. I need to be using it efficiently and wisely.
Yeah.
And that really made me focus more attentively on the whole scope and the idea of what time is, what you can do and what you can't do.
Interesting. Well, you write in your book, something from your book. You say the truth is you have no less or no more time in your day than Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, the president of the United States, Taylor Swift, Simon Cowell. And you talk about that and how do they get so much done in their day while we seem to struggle?
Yes.
And it's true. How do you think we should look at that? What should we take from that particular part of your book?
Well, I don't believe they use their day the same way we do.
Hmm.
Uh, we, too many people, I'll say it this way, too many people think life is based on living to work. And you measure your productivity in life by how much work you get done,
Yes.
how much fruit there is from your efforts. But it doesn't take into mind the time you spend with family, the time you enjoy the handiwork of God, the time you enjoy music. And I believe God designed your life to be fruitful in many areas, not just your job. But we're faced with, I don't seem to have enough time to get done all that I need to do.
Hmm.
Why do they seem to have more time? I think they have used their time more wisely and more effectively, more efficiently than we do. It's easy to say, well, they can hire people to do jobs. That doesn't excuse them from daily life. They have lots of things to do. And I think that they have learned to use the moments that we let pass unused.
Hmm.
And that's really the focus of the book, learning to use the unused moments in life. If we do that well, we will have much more time than we ever dreamt possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. In the business I've been in for years, I've owned a real estate company, and my biggest part of my job was to teach the agents that worked with and for me how to use their time more effectively.
Mhm.
And of course, we were talking about not just time in their business, but time in their lives and time for those things that are outside of real estate. And so part of my life has been trying to help those and help myself as well make the best use of their time. Doctor, in your book, you emphasize the importance of utilizing 30-second time blocks. And I,
Yes.
I would like those listening to this to come away, maybe, unless you have a better idea or a better thought of of the words um, simple time blocks. Um,
Okay,
it- and so, can you share a personal experience where a seemingly trivial moment led into significant change in your life?
sure. I am sitting in my office today
Mhm.
as we speak, and my office is in my home. I'm upstairs. From this vantage point, I can look right out my window and see when the mail is delivered. When the mail person comes, I think, okay, the mail's here, but I'm busy doing this and that. I'll get the mail later. There's
Mhm.
important stuff in the mail, but I'll
Yeah.
do it later.
Mhm.
Why? Because it takes time. It takes more time than I want to give to go to the mailbox from upstairs. And one day I got a stopwatch and I timed myself from my desk down the stairs, out the front door to the mailbox. It was 30 seconds. And while I'm upstairs, I'm thinking, it takes too long. It took 30 seconds.
Mm.
Anybody can give 30 seconds away and not feel pushed or rushed or overwhelmed with time constraints. And that made me think, if that only took 30 seconds, what else can I do in just 30 seconds that's meaningful? And so I took a stopwatch. I went to my closet. What can I do in this closet in 30 seconds? What can I do for my wife in the pantry, in the kitchen, in the garden shed, in the garage? How about when I'm waiting in the car for her to come out of Walmart? I've
Mhm.
got blocks of time. And I tend to think that time's just wasted. All I'm doing is waiting, waiting, waiting.
Mm.
And then with that stopwatch, I found out how much I could do that I don't do that later will overwhelm me because I don't have time to do it when I could have done it in 30 seconds.
Mm.
And it's absolutely amazing. I've discovered that we don't need more time. We need to use the time that we have more effectively and more efficiently. When my wife and I watch a TV show, we enjoy watching comedy at night before we go to bed. Obviously, watching TV, a commercial comes up.
Mhm.
I sit there and I watch somebody tell me about how they need to wear the pins or take a vitamin or get a haircut or take this new pill. And it doesn't affect me at all. That's not part of my world. It's not part of what I think about. I'm just bored. I'm giving away 30 seconds or a minute or 2 minutes. And now with some cable TV, 3 minutes. But I would sit there and time would pass by that I could have been doing something.
Yeah.
The question is, would what I do have been significant?
Mhm.
Can I do something significant in 30 seconds? And I've discovered the overwhelming answer is absolutely yes.
Yeah. And I don't think we realize how long 30 seconds is until we actually stop and do 30 seconds. If we did it right now, it would seem like forever. When you were trying to plug in your charger, it was a total of maybe 45 seconds. But I bet
Right.
to you, as you were trying to find it, it probably seemed like 10 minutes, but it was a very short period of time.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's the way life begins to overwhelm you.
Uh-huh.
Overwhelming is too much to do in too little time.
Hmm.
Now I feel overwhelmed.
Well, it seems to me that you live by what you say, because in your book, one of the things that stood out to me was on page 86. I don't know if people will be able to see it, but it is, uh, Doctor, you didn't say it once, you said it 5 times, and it was bold, and you had exclamation points behind it. I'm guessing that's kind of important to you. It says, buy yourself a stopwatch. And
Yes.
you literally live by that and have done that.
Yes.
Huh.
When Yeah, I mentioned earlier that I gave myself 25 years in a covenant I made with God that I want to focus on this part of ministry. As that time shortened down, I began to count every moment as something precious. And I wanted to be productive. I wanted God to look at my life and say, oh, you used that pretty well. But as that time grew shorter, the more incredibly precious that time was. I discovered you cannot save time. We have all kinds of time-saving devices. No, you don't. You have devices that will help you use time more efficiently, but you do not get to go home at the end of the day with a bucket of time that you
Mm-hmm.
save.
Mm-hmm.
You have 24 hours. And if you don't use the 30-second block, it's just a small block, but if you don't use it, it has passed for eternity and you don't get a rerun. You don't get to try again. The time passes constantly. It's never ending. It never stops. It doesn't slow down. It passes, passes, passes. And time that you have, you either use it or you lose it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you sit through a TV commercial watching something you're not interested in, but you could have been doing something convenient, something useful, that is time you will never get back.
Mm-hmm.
Never. So again, I went to God and I said, God, I've only got so much time. I wish you'd give me more time. But then I realized if he asked me, what did you do with the time I gave you? And I said, well, I watched commercials.
Yeah.
I can just imagine God shaking his head and saying, that's dumb.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's dumb.
Yeah. Exactly. Um,
So, so I did. I took my stopwatch. I went to my car, just sat in the car and timed myself. What can I do in 30 seconds? In the pantry, in my closet, in my bathroom, in my attic, at my toolbox, at the garden shed. What can I do in 30 seconds? And it's absolutely amazing how much I can get done in what seems to be a very short period of time. But
mhm.
I tended not to do it because it seemed like a much higher requirement of time.
Yeah. And so in your book, you give vivid examples of just exactly what you talked about. What can I do when I'm in the pantry? What can I do in all kinds of situations? And they're all in here. I mean, there's uh, the amount of time that you wrote down what you can do in 30 seconds when you're in the garden shed, like you mentioned, and all kinds of in your car. They're all in here, and some of them are kind of funny, actually. Kind of funny. And I'm
Good.
thinking, well, everybody to their own. What can I do when I'm in the living room and so forth? And so what it did for me was it gave me the idea to be more focused on 30 seconds
Yeah.
in my life. And I think you can be more focused on 30 seconds or 15 minutes, because what I taught to my agents was to have 15-minute time blocks
Okay.
as they build a day. And
Right.
so while I worked with 15-minute time blocks, this is just a lesson in another strategy with 30 seconds. So tell me, what do you consider, if there is, the biggest myth about time management, and how can recognizing this myth help individuals feel less overwhelmed? Is any particular myth? Um,
Well,
I Go ahead.
for me, the primary myth is I wish I had more time.
Hmm.
You don't need more time when you have time that you don't use. So this whole process that this book is based on is use that time that you have that you think is not valuable. um, there was a time that I had the choice of laying in bed for another hour. I woke up at like 4 or 5 in the morning, and I can either get up and get something done, or I can lay here and enjoy my pillow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I decided to go ahead and get up. And I was glad I did because I got a chapter written during that time that I didn't have to take away from the rest of the day. Once my wife got up and then she demanded attention, um, I wanted to give her attention. We wanted to have breakfast together, but here was a packet, a slot of time unused. I could use it for sleep, or I could use it to write that chapter. And I chose to use the chapter. And so somebody asked me earlier today, how much wiser is it to use your time and work smarter rather than harder? And I said, well, obviously, if you use your time smarter and work smarter, things will go better. But let's add another ingredient. Instead of working harder or working smarter, how about if we work wiser?
Mm.
And so, how does wisdom come to play in how I set up what I do during the day? And I believe you found in the book this thing that was called the Eisenhower Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
And General Eisenhower, when he became president, he had a certain number of things, just like any president would have to do, certain number of things that have to be done, and it could be overwhelming. So the question to him was, how do you get so much done? And he said, I divide my list into 4 categories. Things I must do.
Mm-hmm.
I do it now. Things that I must do, but it doesn't have to be right now. I can reschedule it. Well, wisdom tells you the difference. And don't let other people tell you what's more important. You have the choice of that. And then thirdly is what things are there that need to be done, but it doesn't have to be me that does it.
Mm-hmm.
My mentor in life, he used to have a little sign on his wall that said, don't be busy doing what somebody else could do when you could be busy doing what only you can do. And so you need to learn. Wisdom says delegate. Of some of the things on your to-do list, can your teenage son do some of that? Can your
Mm-hmm.
daughter do some of that? Can your wife? Can somebody at work do that? Why do you think it relies on you? Maybe it doesn't. And then wisdom also means choosing what does not have to be done by you at all.
Mm-hmm.
Get those off of your list. And with
Mm-hmm.
those 4 categories, it has eased the pressure in my life. I have had to learn, I don't like saying no to anyone. You asked me to join your show today. I
Mm-hmm.
had to decide, is that important? I thought,
Mm-hmm.
yes, it is. Is that something I can reschedule? No, he has a set schedule and it fits my schedule. I don't need to reschedule. Is it something somebody else can do? No, I'm the one that gained the insights about time use and time management. I need to be the one to do it. And I could not say no. And that's why we're here today. But there are other things. I had someone sitting with me saying, hey, I'd like to put you on a list to do this and this and this. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, there are 25 other men that I can name off right now that could do that.
Mm-hmm.
Want me to be the one to do it, but I don't need to be the one to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when you learn to say no to
Yeah.
some, not out of meanness, but out of give someone else the opportunity and
Mm-hmm.
focus on what God has just for you, that really freed up my life and my clock of all that needed to be done.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to. And I think for most of us, saying no is the most powerful thing we could do, but most of us have a hard time saying no. I know that I'm one of those people. When I was earlier in my life, I said yes to everything. And I also said yes to everything in my business. When people wanted me to show a home or do an open house for them, an agent that might ask me to do. I I had a hard time saying no until I really realized that saying yes to everybody really affected my relationship with my children
Yes,
and with my wife. The people that I need to say yes to are those people first, right?
that's right. You learn that when you say yes to somebody else, you're saying no to another person who may need you even more. A person for whom you are the only one that can do what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Nobody else can be a father to my children. Nobody else can be a grandfather to my grandchildren. Nobody else can be a husband to my wife. When I would say yes to a committee meeting at the church, I was saying no to my family.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe God, when He measures how you use the lifetime that He gives you, however many days that may be, it's not all going to be how much work did you get done. It's how much of your life was spent develop, developing real life and with the priorities that I wanted you to have. Nobody else can do for my wife what I do.
Yeah.
But does that mean I'm always doing what my wife wants? No.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I live my life and work so that I can live my life. I can give time to my wife, give time to my children, have time to enjoy God's pleasure, the things that God's made, but I have to work to supply that. I
Right.
don't, I don't live to work. I work in order to live. If
Mm-hmm.
you work 100% of the time, then you have no life. And I think that goes against the grain of the way God designed you and life to be.
Mm-hmm. And, with that thought in mind, as I read some names, as I read Elon Musk and Warren Buffett and Taylor Swift and the President of the United States, it's how they're choosing to use their time. But these are probably people that don't say no very often, or maybe they do. Maybe they're just very good at saying no to those things that they know is not going to advance what, they believe they need to advance. Um, so there's a few things I could put on my website and so forth, the Eisenhower quadrant, but anybody can Google it. So
Yes,
if you're a listener and you heard the Eisenhower quadrant and you're interested about that, it's a great story. I use it in my business, urgent, not urgent,
right.
so forth in blocks. And if you're interested in that, just Google it, the Eisenhower quadrant. Also, you mentioned, and I love these four sentences where you say, and it was important enough for me that I wrote it down and I have it on my desk now, that you can't make time, you can't save time, you can't kill time, and you can't buy time. And I think reflecting on those four short sentences, I think can help us put things into the works for living a better life and working with the 30 seconds that can change your life and so forth. um, Doctor, how can seniors cultivate a sense of purpose in their micro moments in those 30 seconds? How can they cultivate a sense of purpose? Can you maybe expound on my question?
Sure. I hope so. I have found that, especially for seniors, we think about it because we're closer to it. Time is eternal, but we are not.
Hmm. Mhm.
There are a certain number that everybody has the same number of hours, minutes, and seconds in their day, but we don't all have the same number of days. I believe that we have to find out what is it that is important in my life that I might be responsible for. Every day that I live puts me one day closer to meeting God face to face.
Mhm.
And if he says, what did you do with the time I gave you? I want to be able to say, I figured out what was important and I put it in my priorities. My church, my family, my job, sleeping well, having good health, and those became priorities. And I began to give myself to those. But I also learned I still have these 30-second blocks of time. There's many of them in every
Yes.
single day, and we just let them pass by. We might stand against the kitchen counter and lean back and just take a deep breath. What did you do? Oh, not much. What could you have done? Well, I could have done this, I could have done that. And that's why I went to work putting 30 things at the end of every chapter. Um, don't just
Mhm.
stand here unless your goal is to recuperate, recover, to rest, and maybe that is the most important thing at that moment.
Sure.
But that's not all day long.
Hmm.
Don't do it all day. So how do you use it? Find those things that seem to take a lot of time. Find out if they really do.
Mm.
Don't imagine. Buy the stopwatch. That's why I said it 5 times. Get the stopwatch. You will surprise yourself how much you can get done in 30 seconds. And by eliminating that, that means you're freed up from that time that you would have spent doing that in the future, but gives you time for the more important things.
Hmm.
And that's what we really want. We want time for the important things that should be priorities, but we appear to be overwhelmed. I believe one of the myths is we have fallen victim to the lie that takes too long. I don't believe it does. There's so much of life that doesn't, but we fooled ourselves into thinking it did, and therefore we become overwhelmed.
Well, and yesterday when I was on the treadmill, and I usually take that time to listen to music. It helps me get through the mile that I walk every day on a treadmill. And after reading your book, actually I'd read it before and so forth, I realized that, well, geez, it takes me 20 minutes. Actually, it takes me about 21 minutes and 30 seconds to walk the mile that I walk. um, how could I apply um, Dr. Gerald's book into the walk on a treadmill? I didn't divide it up, but I have a lot of 30-second intervals on that treadmill, 40 or more of them. And how could I better use the time? While music's important in my life, and I think it's important in everyone's life, or can be, how could I use this in this particular way at this particular moment? And have there been any, since you've written your book and you've talked to a number of people who have read your book and are maybe doing better in their life or have made their own self discoveries, any particular stories that you can think of? I don't mean to stump you here, but anybody in particular who said, Doc, I took the 30 seconds to do this, and as a result, I blank was able to do this. Any stories you might have of that?
The stories I typically hear are the ones people are too embarrassed to give me the details of because they think that only took 30 seconds. I thought it would take longer, and I'm embarrassed to admit that this tiny little bit of life I could have gotten done became an overwhelming burden. And because I imagined it to be bigger or take longer. And I, I'm encouraging them, don't look at the list of 30 things you can do in 30 seconds in your closet that I made. Make your own list.
Yes, exactly.
Get in your own car. Go to your own pantry. Take time with your own family. Um, just get your stopwatch and time you're watching TV. Time the commercials. Write it
Hmm.
down. You'll
Hmm.
be surprised how much time has passed you by
Hmm.
that you will never regain. It's gone. It's like money spent.
Yes, it is.
Get it
Yeah.
back.
And it's as it applies to me. My thing that drives everybody crazy is when a commercial comes up. Whenever that happens, I mute the TV.
Hmm.
I refuse to fall into that hole of listening to the junk that's coming at me. However, I can't think how I have effectively used that time.
Hmm.
It's just a time where the effectiveness has been the quiet and maybe to think about things going on, but not anything in particular. Uh, One thing that I thought about yesterday was as I was sitting in my chair with the table to my left and the television on, and a commercial came on, and in my tradition, I muted the commercial. Well, if I took this 30 seconds, it's actually going to be probably as long as 4 minutes. Um, I could read some prayers. It's Lent. And I was trying to figure out when am I going to find time to pray, you know.
Right.
And for not everybody here is a person that prays, but it could be anything. But for me, I thought, well, I've got the little book that I got at church a couple Sundays ago that has prayers that I can read, and there's my 30 seconds when I'm sitting watching television.
Yeah.
So
And
there we go.
I agree with you. And I'm a slow reader. I mean, I have thousands of books.
Hmm.
I study things by topic. I research, but I cannot get into a story because you ready? It takes too long. But I enjoy it when I am there. But there is so much that I can read. I enjoy snippets. I enjoy news articles that are summaries and just a paragraph. I read maybe the first two paragraphs of news articles, and after that, it's people's opinion about what the news was.
Right.
I've learned to shorten what I read and read that in my 30 seconds. And some things, let's admit it, some things take more than
Yes.
30 seconds. What do I do? Well, take two 30-second packages of time and put those together. Do it that way. Or you cannot run through commercials, but you can let the commercial play while you do something. And when the show is on, when you come back, you can back up
Hmm.
and pick up where you were. So you
Hmm.
still don't have to watch the commercial.
Yeah,
And you
exactly.
still get to do the things in the time that would have been taken by that commercial.
Exactly. Dr. Gerald, as we've explored these concepts and talked about 30 seconds that can change your life, what final thoughts or encouragement would you like to share with those seniors in those listeners in this audience about the power of time in embracing each moment? Any last thoughts that you might have before we go?
Yeah. Um, no, very few people know when they are going to die. But for some of us, as we age, we know it sooner rather than later. I would sit down now and say, what are my priorities before that time comes? I want to spend more time with my grandchildren. I want to teach this one this topic. I want to teach that one to have these values. I want to teach my children how to handle money. Um, I want to do more with my church. I want to do this or that. What are your priorities? Put
Mhm.
them down and then say, God, this is what I want to live forward. This is what I want to produce long-lasting fruit from my life.
Beautiful.
Help me and give me wisdom to know how to focus my time to do what nobody else can do for them.
Mm.
And I think most of us don't live with a focus on time. We live on the focus of getting a job done, whether it's to sell a house or produce this or that. Um, and then as soon as that job's done, there's another one. Find out what it was that would have impacted you had you died without getting it done.
Mm.
In other words, God, if my time comes and you take me to glory, to heaven, if I haven't done this, I have not lived my life well. What can I do in the time I have to focus on that? And if it, for me, I have a granddaughter that loves jokes. I can pick up the phone and say, hey, Gracie, I got one for you.
Mm.
Tell her a joke, hang up. I'm done in 30 seconds.
Mhm.
It made her day. It made a connection between grandfather and granddaughter. She'll remember on the day I died, my granddaddy used to call me up and just tell me a joke. Is that valuable? Yeah.
Of course it
There are
is.
things I want to have done around the house. I mean, lots of little things that the guy of the house does. How many of those can I get done during a commercial? Well, only one. Oh, but that's one. How many commercials are there in the movie I'm watching?
Mhm.
18. Okay, so I could have done 18 things to
Mhm.
make my wife's life easier when my time for not being here arrives. And
Inspiring. Mhm.
focus on those.
Sure.
Uh, 30 seconds is so small, nobody minds giving it to you. If you're 30 seconds late, they don't care. But 30 seconds can mean something very valuable if you get it done, get it out of the way, and move on with life.
Mhm.
It will unburden the overwhelming sensation that we often get.
Mm. Excellent. Uh, something that takes 30 seconds is writing a personal note to somebody
Absolutely.
that you care about. I mean, when you think about it, when was the last time you got a letter? But when was the last time you got a personal note from somebody that just said, I'm thinking about you today, and I appreciate everything you've done or been part of my life? And how simple is something like that? And what a huge effect a personal note, can have on somebody. I've got an idea. So when we're done here today, think about sending a personal note to somebody that you love, or write it and walk across the street and maybe even attach it to this book. Maybe
Mm,
even grab this book. It's available on Amazon. You'll be able to find it. You'll have it in a day, like I did. Maybe take a personal note, put inside this book, take it across the street to your neighbor, and
yeah,
maybe just say, today I was thinking about you, and in the 30 seconds it took, I thought that you might be able to benefit from reading this book as I have. I think that's something we could do today, right?
absolutely. And I hope you have 100 friends who buy 100 copies of the book.
I got it.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I hope so too. I hope so too. Dr. Gerald, this has been a pleasure. It's been fun. I know you have such a number of huge things you've done in your life. This is just a small piece, not that it's not important, but just a small piece. And I hope the seniors who watch this and others who watch this have enjoyed it. I've enjoyed being with you. Stick around for just a couple minutes here. I'm going to fade out and say goodbye to everybody. But thank you so much for being with me today.
You are so welcome, and thank you for the invitation.
You bet. We'll talk again.
All right.